So Donald Trump is the very first Republican who I have ever voted for in my life. I voted for him for the first time in 2020. Before that, I voted Barack Obama twice, and I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. And the only reason I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 was because I believe that Donald Trump was a racist, and I also thought that the majority of Republicans and the people who were voting for him were also racist. Then in 2016 hit, and he won. I was so disappointed. I told my sister, I cannot believe that the country that just elected our first black president turned around and elected this man. Then my sister told me, just because people have voted for Donald Trump does not mean that they are racist. I told her, yes, it does. It absolutely means they're racist, because that's what I thought. Then I saw him as president, and I thought that he was a good leader. I think he did a good job, aside from all his mean tweets. So in 2020, I voted for him. And in 2020, I was literally undecided until that third debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I saw Joe Biden get on stage, talk about all the wonderful things that he was going to do should he take office. Then Donald Trump said the same thing to him that we saw him say to Kamala Harris. If you were going to do those things, why haven't you done them? And in Joe Biden's case, he had been Barack Obama's VP for 8 years. And in addition to that, he had also been a senator. So around that time, he had about 40 years in office under his belt. And when Donald Trump asked him that question, that struck out to me, that why didn't you do all these things in 40 years? Then Joe Biden answered that question with an excuse and said the reason he didn't do it was because of the Republicans in Congress. Said also because he was the vice president. And I was thinking, so the Republicans in Congress stopped you from doing all this in 40 years? You couldn't get any of this done in 40 years? That struck out to me. And that made me vote for Donald Trump in 2020. And I remember when I was actually on my way to vote for Donald Trump, my husband and I were in the car riding together. We started talking about the election and who we're voting for. He was voting for Biden. I told him I was voting for Donald Trump. He immediately turned the car around and drove back home. Would not take me to the poll to vote for Donald Trump. So we went back home, and I returned to the poll later to vote for Donald Trump. Then we all lived under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in office. My husband got to see firsthand the incompetence of this administration. And now not only am I a Trump supporter, he is too. And I've also learned one thing about Donald Trump supporters and Republicans in general. See, it used to be, I thought they were intolerant. I thought they were the ones who were racist and closed-minded. But it turns out it was the other way around. Because when I was in 2016 voting for Hillary Clinton, I was working in a small office then. The majority of the people I was working with were Republican. They had no problem with me saying that I was supporting Hillary Clinton. They had absolutely no problem with it. Not one of those people tried to change my mind. Not one of those people treated me any differently because I thought differently than them. But the minute you turn away from that and say, you know what, I don't agree with that anymore. I don't agree with what the Democratic Party is doing anymore. I don't stand for that anymore. The minute you do that, the Democrats have a problem with it. But they're the ones preaching tolerance. They're the ones preaching acceptance. They're the ones talking about the hatred on the other side, when really the hatred is on their side.